Hi, good morning everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Murli for changing the format a little because the last time I was speaking here, I actually was a student at ISB and at that time I was being graded. So it was a good thing I was not sitting down, but I was standing up and moving around a little because that made me, be a little more comfortable. So thanks again for that. So great thoughts, I think we have heard, and I'm glad some of that got covered because I thought I'm last in the order, but I deliberately didn't keep some of those. And when I made this presentation, I also thought of what Nimesh had said back when he called me and said, this is the theme and we should try to stay away from the challenges a little. But to Hari's point and what everybody's saying, those challenges are there. We can't really run away from them. Having said that, I'll quickly take you through a few points. And really, just the first slide is just some numbers on the opportunity. And back when I entered the industry, at that time, some of these were coming up. But there are no new news to any of you. I'm sure you have seen it. The numbers are big, but so are scale issues and challenges. But this demand, this need is there. It's not just a report, right? It's a well thought out of report, well researched report. We all agree to shortages. I'm sure even if we go to the basic level, all of us here will agree to the shortages of drivers, maids, and then from there the problem just kind of becomes acute. So what is it that we are missing? I'll kind of, take a step to talk of unit level economics. And while I've put some numbers there, they're not that important, but it's to give some sort of a theme of what we think is fairly important. And when we talk about scale and going out and covering those millions of numbers that we saw on the first slide, what we think is really important is to figure out the unit level economics. Because if your units can succeed, then it is much easier to scale it further. Of course, it doesn't mean that if you have fixed one unit, you solve the problem for the world, because the normal distribution curve will apply everywhere. There will be some people who will hit the ball out of the park and really go way beyond these numbers. And there will be some people who never get off the bench and are really making losses. But that one unit, can we fix it? That's important. And we have tried to put some different numbers for metro, state capitals, other centers. But the key theme here is, this is based on average utilization estimates, which is 40%. That's a key point to remember of this slide. It's 40% average utilization. And I'll speak about it a little more on my next slide, which is what are the key challenges at that specific unit and center. So student mobilization, we have kind of early in the day already talked about it. It's a big challenge because there's NREGA, there's people getting into employment on their own, not paying enough heed or value to this training, employers not giving it enough premium and so on. So it's really tough to get a student to first come into your center, B, to put him in the right training program, and C, to make him stay there. The other key problem is batch formation. I was speaking to somebody this morning and I gave an example that we run English as one of the programs in our centers. And we have 3 different levels of English that we teach. To get 10 to 12 people, which we think is a reasonable kind of a number for a batch, together at the same level into the same batch, it's an incredibly tough job. You talk to some of those center managers and some of those people who are trying to do that mobilization. It's just so tough. And then they end up placing people, from a level 2 into a level 1 batch just to fill that batch or do those kind of things. But that student, sure enough, in a couple of days, he feels confused and he leaves that batch, does not pay the next installment. So all those kind of things happen. And that really, why I have put that there is because it leads to that key challenge that I talked about in the previous slide, which is the center utilization. Because imagine if a center can break even at 40%, if you can take it to 60%, you've just changed the game. So that's one key problem, but I'm saying it out here, I wish I was not recorded, but that's one challenge we have not been able to solve. The other is resource mobilization. I'll not go into the details too much. We've already talked about the trainers, which is becoming an even bigger problem than getting the students. So here's where you pay money, try to get a good trainer, give them the trainer program, you spend money on it, but by the end of it, maybe that trainer is either gone to somebody else, to one of us amongst this room, or in the first place, we have not been able to get that right trainer at all. So I'll come to the theme of what really this panel, this session is about, that the ROI question and who is responsible to pay. So let me put some perspective on what the different people think. So what the students think is that vocational education is no substitute for degree. Is he getting prepared for a job? Yes, no, maybe. Is vocational education preparing him for the so-called marriage market? The answer is no, because that's what a degree does, so it's not a substitute for degree. There's a huge opportunity cost of being in that training, because he thinks that doing an unskilled job, getting that money today, is much better than, sitting in a training class for 2 months and losing what he can contribute back to his family or to his own pocket right from day one. And of course, the sole clear answer is the employer should pay, the government should pay, why should I pay out of my own pocket? That's but obvious. Let's now talk about the employer a little. So we talked a little about productivity in some of the sessions. The first question is, from the employer typically we get to hear, is that, is there ROI in this training? Okay, if you are kind of able to cross that point and say, yes, there is ROI, there is productivity in this. The next point you come across is, but we can't differentiate between, somebody we hire off the street and somebody who comes from your program. It's really tough to maintain parity there. And that's a general rule we have kind of seen. I'm not saying that's the only rule. There are exceptions there, of course, but that's a big challenge. So the employer really is not ready or willing to pay a premium to that employee. Of course, they want the customized trainings, but then somebody who has need for 10 people or 20 people, there are huge costs to make a customized program for them. And I'll very briefly cover some potential models that different providers use. I didn't want to kind of base it only on what IndiaCAN does, but as a general rule, no, one size does not fit all. But typically, people would have seen there are some hire and train. There are some niche and long tail programs, because customer acquisition cost is the biggest challenge. So if you are able to acquire a customer, a student in this case, and keep him with you for about 12 months, 14 months, you somewhat offset that marketing cost, the mobilization challenge that you have gone through. And the third is some sort of degree blended distance learning degree kind of programs. And it's deliberately put in that specific order. Because when new companies are formed, I've mostly seen in their life cycle, they really go in this order. They start with hire and train, and typically that ends up becoming a hiring business, because the employer says, great, you've hired that person. So instead of those 10 days, can that person join me in 2 days, because I've recently had great attrition. And then you realize that, you are getting into the hiring business rather than training. So you take some sort of a conscious call there. And so, these are fairly straightforward. Since I have limited time now, I'll quickly talk about what we think are some of the game changers. On the public policy level, and I've differentiated these into short to medium term as well as the, the long term, because we firmly believe that we need to put a scaffolding in place to get the industry running, support it in the short run, use those lubricants, as we say, and then in the medium term to long term, make it self-sufficient. So public policy, the coupon-based or the voucher schemes, ad campaign on vocational training, because it needs that credibility. The national occupation standards, the sector skills councils, that's really on the longer run. Industry needs to offer premium. Once it starts doing that, it takes that leap of faith in the short run to make that training much more customized to that one person, Why is it that everybody needs to go through the same learning when they are at different levels? And map the industry skill set requirements much more better, because that's fairly important. And longer run, we need to create that mass to achieve scale, help contribute to the brand, and offer customized solutions for the industry, because once we stand on our feet, it's going to be much easier to do that.